welcome everybody to my first video newsletter. I wanted to do this in video format because I feel like this day and age we're so disconnected from each other, and granted we're not face to face in real time. It is nice to at least be able to see a face, hear words, and in some way feel like we're connecting human to human. And so today I just wanted to kind of get real and tell you where I'm at in my life and hopefully open up a place that we can dialogue and feel safe in talking about what's going on in our lives and using mindfulness and meditation as these very powerful tools that can really support us during this challenging time of life. I mean, I don't listen to a lot of news. I don't read a lot of news. I just kind of try to stay up on the key things a little bit. And we know that there's racial tension and political tension. There's the COVID pandemic. There's wildfires and hurricanes, climate change. There's a lot of anxiety on a personal level from all of these things. We're living in uncertain times is what I keep hearing. And so we have ways to work with all of this, and fortunately, the practices of mindfulness and meditation can be foundational tools during this time of life. Now, on a personal level, I've deeply been struggling, and I've been pretty sick now for 6 years and doing all of my work from home. Fortunately, we live in a day and age where there is the opportunity to do things from home, to engage with others from home. And so I guess I'm grateful for the fact that if there's any time in history to be sick and ill and to still be connected, it's probably this day and age. And so yesterday, I was feeling very, very poorly, very weak. And given that this has been going on so intensely for 6 years, I felt like I was at the end of my rope and literally just grasping at something to keep me going, any energy, praying, crying, you name it. It was a breakdown day. And fortunately, I have a beautiful support system. I have my mom that I reached out to. I talked to my husband. I talked to my spiritual mentor. I couldn't do it on my own yesterday, and nor do we ever have to do it on our own. We are interconnected in so many ways, and even though we feel disconnected sometimes with the COVID pandemic and sometimes modern day technology makes us feel disconnected in a way, and yet there's a way to use it to really bring us closer. And so now is the time to really rely upon each other and get real. I think we need to get honest with where we're at. We don't need to sugarcoat anything anymore. We're human. Life sucks sometimes, and it's beautiful sometimes. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And after my breakdown day yesterday, I just feel like, life is short. And I know that sounds cliche, but on a personal level, my illness is, nobody really knows what it is, so that's confusing. And yet I know that there's something very wrong in this body, given that 10 years ago I was hiking Pikes Peak and now I can't walk around the block. So I know that there's something going on. I don't know what it is. I don't know how long this is going to go on. I don't know if this is going to be the cause of the end of my life. There's all these questions that we all have to live with. And what I wanted to talk a little bit about today was, I'm bringing up what happened to me yesterday because that phrase, I'm at the end of my rope, started resonating with me. I really felt like I was at the end of my rope. And then in one moment I thought, is that necessarily a bad thing? Is it a bad thing to be at the end of your rope? Now, I have to preface this with, obviously, if we're feeling actively suicidal and and feeling like we really cannot go on. We need professional help. We need the support of each other. And then on a more, I guess, existential plane, thinking of being at the end of our rope may not be a bad thing. Maybe when we're at the end of our rope, it's time to let go. And I think of, in my mind, I guess, this image of a rope just dangling in space, and it's served its purpose for us. It's held us up for whatever reasons in our life. It's been there for us. And we've used this rope, and now we're slipping down to the bottom of it. Because maybe we don't need this rope anymore. Maybe these are patterns in our lives that haven't served us. Maybe they're beliefs, thoughts, actions, ways of being in the world that it's now time to let go of. Those ways of being in the world served us for a while. And sometimes when we feel like we're at the end of our rope, it's saying, okay, let's let go of that rope. And it also makes me think of a couple weeks ago, I was listening to a talk by a spiritual mentor named Adyashanti. And he was talking about meditative inquiry and kind of living in this place of groundlessness, where in spiritual inquiry, you're not so much needing answers, you're more living in the question. And that's a hard place to be sometimes. And yet, it's a place of infinite possibility. When we're not attached to an answer, we're living in that question. And in his talk, he was kind of giving a visual to us of all of us just kind of falling through space, and for those of us who are grasping for answers or grasping for something to hold on to, we're falling through space, feeling like we're going crazy and wanting anything to make us feel like we're okay, make us feel like we're safe and enough, and whatever it is that we're needing, we're grasping. And then he gave the comparison then of the person grasping and falling, and then another person who's maybe just okay with the uncertainty, and they're just kind of floating. They're falling through space as well, and yet they're enjoying the ride, knowing that there is no ground, that we're just kind of here. And when we need that solid ground, or when we think that we're falling onto solid ground, there's a panic reaction that comes up. And yet, if we can rest in a little bit more groundlessness and a little bit more uncertainty around what the next moment will hold, what the next year will hold, then we can start to kind of float a little more gracefully. We can start to enjoy the ride a little bit more without needing to grasp for something to hold us up. And again, I don't want to underestimate, I guess, or downplay how immense the suffering is sometimes in our lives. And that seeking for support and that seeking for solid ground is a natural human response. We want to know, and this is why we do research, and this is why a lot of religion is so powerful in people's lives. It gives answers. And yet sometimes those answers aren't the truth, or they're not all that we need. And so that's why in living in the question and letting go of the rope when we're at the end of it can open us up to something that's very infinite and free. And so this is just an invitation to kind of think about this. Think about in your own life, where are you desperate for answers? Where are you feeling the panic around the groundlessness? And first and foremost, acknowledging that's fear and that's suffering, and that's something to be held with some compassion and tenderness. And then also just kind of opening the question of, what if I did let go of this rope that I feel like I'm at the end of already? What if I do let go of this rope and I trust that I'll be able to kind of float and stay up? I'll be able to enjoy the ride a little bit more peacefully as I open to something new, as I open to a new way of being in the world. There's a saying, and I'm probably going to mess it up, but it's about letting go, and that when you're at the end of all that you know, and you kind of take that leap of faith, one of two things will happen. Either something will be there to catch you, or you'll be given wings to fly. And I think about that in my own life a lot, because I'm living with a lot of groundlessness and not knowing what's going on with my health, not knowing on any given day, any given moment, really, what's going to show up in my body. Am I going to be able to make dinner? Am I going to be able to take care of my son? Am I going to be able to enjoy this social get together, or am I going to be on the couch? So living with that level of uncertainty, not knowing what's going on. And really, that's just an example of how our lives are filled with uncertainty. And that can be a great source of fear in some ways, and it can also be a great source of freedom. Because in not knowing, in refraining from assuming that we definitely know, there is this space of infinite possibility. And I just invite you to open to that a little bit each day. Open to, what are the infinite possibilities within my own life, within the world. We are going through a time of crisis, and yet as humans, we've gone through a lot of times of crises, and there is a strength of spirit within all of us that is accessible and will help us through it. And I do believe, and on my worst days, sometimes it's hard to believe this, but I do believe that through these times of crisis and on those days that we're breaking down, that something is breaking open, that something new is being reborn. We can kind of trust in this process of small deaths and rebirths in every moment. And yesterday, when I was in the midst of my kind of breakdown, I just sat out on the back patio and I was looking at my tomato plant, and I was looking at the geranium and just kind of holding one of the small flowers of the geranium and seeing just how perfect nature is. And that within one plant of the geranium, on one stalk, there were dried out, dead flowers. There were flowers that were fully blossomed, and there were flowers that were yet to be. And that's something that we can trust in, this process of life, that there are small deaths, and there are big deaths, and there are rebirths. And that was something that my spiritual mentor asked me yesterday, what is something that you can find refuge in? What is something that you can trust? And that's what came to my mind, was nature. That there is a natural, mysterious, and amazing flow to nature that maybe we don't fully understand, and yet it's living through us and around us in every moment of our lives. So again, I just kind of wanted to share that with you, and that if you are feeling at the end of your rope, that maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing. definitely seek the help that you need. Definitely reach out. You can always email me. I would love to open to dialogue about the real things in our lives right now. We don't need to sugarcoat anymore. And yet, through all of this, there's infinite possibility. And that in letting go of that rope that we're clinging to and that we're hanging on by threads, that when we finally let go, that we either will be caught, something will be there for us to hold us up, or we'll be given wings to fly. And it's a slow process. It's a slow release. It's a slow letting go. And yet when we are able to let go of that need to fully understand everything, to fully figure everything out, it opens up some space to be present for our lives right now, to open with curiosity, and to enjoy the ride a little bit more and trust the flow. So with that, I also wanted to share a couple of things that I'm creating. I've been working on my mindfulness and sport course for a couple of years now, and I did a small pilot program online and live. So we went through each module live and had really enriching discussion. It was with 3 gymnastics coaches. One was my former gymnastics coach, Lori Forster, and then Gail Royce, who was a former high country gymnastics owner in Colorado, and Amber McCracken, who's from Olathe, Kansas. And it was a small group, but it was a very rich discussion. And I think we all agreed that mindfulness is something that we need to bring into athletics. And given that gymnastics is near and dear to my heart, that's where I plan on starting. And I finally have the online course in a format that's a little bit more user-friendly. So stay tuned to my social media pages and the emails that I send out. And it's actually open now if you want to sign up for it. And I've also created a Who Am I Now course, the Transition to Life After Sport. And this was something that I presented recently at USA Gymnastics Congress. And it's, again, a topic that I'm really passionate about, because when I retired from gymnastics, I deeply struggled. And I still now, now that I'm sick and am quite disabled, I still look back on my time as a gymnast thinking, man, I wish I could do that again. So these are 2 courses that I've created, and I'm also in the process of creating another Introduction to Mindfulness class. And I run Introduction to Mindfulness classes on an ongoing basis. If you're interested, let me know, and I'll put you on the sign-up list. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being you. And I plan on sending out a meditation later this week or next week. And I'll continue to send out a monthly video newsletter. And again, never hesitate to reach out through Facebook, email. You can call me if you want to, get my phone number. And I really want to connect and be real with each other and create a space of compassion and love as we're all kind of riding this wild and crazy life of being human. Have a great day.